Today, we're gonna show you how to go from this
to this.
We bought the two most popular products on Amazon to find out if it's worth taking the brakes apart and spraying them,
or if a brush-on product works just as well with less effort. Stick around because we're gonna walk you through how to achieve a stunning, durable finish on your calipers. And the best part, no wrestling with nuts or bolts. Brad's gonna paint his side on the car, and on my side, we're gonna take the brakes apart and use the spray to see if we get a better finish. You ready?
Let's go. Oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
Dude, you fucking idiot. This is an expensive lens.
Oh, it's coming off.
Oh my God, dude. Ready?
Let's go. First things first, let's talk supplies. You're gonna need some sandpaper, 150 grit to start, 500 to finish.
Or better yet, got a drill? Perfect. Use it with a wire brush attachment and watch those old crusty calipers clean up quick like. No drill? No problem. Elbow grease and sandpaper will do the trick too.
Next up, grab a plastic sheet or a garbage bag, and you'll see why in just a minute. You'll need some primer because we're doing this job right, and you're gonna wanna make sure you get the stuff made for high heat applications.
There are plenty of videos across the internet claiming you don't have to use high heat paint. But I'm telling you right now, if you ever actually use your brakes in a sporting manner, the heat will discolor the paint and regular paint products won't look as good or last nearly as long. We've gone with the highly recommended brush-on kit from G2, some inexpensive high heat primer from Rust-Oleum, and a sort of pricey 2K caliper spray from ERA. Lastly, a high temp clear coat from VHT, even though that's not actually required for this application.
Don't, and don't is a 4-letter word. Don't forget your cleaners. Pick your favorite degreaser or wheel cleaner. Grab a cheap tub of towels, and for the final step before painting, we're gonna follow up with some isopropyl alcohol or a similar prep cleaner to make sure those calipers are squeaky clean before painting is the move. And then obviously a jack, stands, or in our case a lift, plus a lug wrench and a bit of muscle to get those wheels off.
Oh, and don't forget a torque wrench. You'll need that for putting the wheels back on.
Always torque your wheels, folks.
Now, because we're gonna be painting the driver's side with a spray, there are a few extra tools you're gonna need to disassemble the calipers. Now, that's gonna vary a lot depending on what kind of car you're working on.
If you don't have a lift, make sure to lock your parking brake and put the car in gear if it's a manual before jacking it up. Also, you're gonna wanna crack those lug nuts loose before you get the wheels off the ground unless you have an impact wrench. And of course, use jack stands. Okay, first things first, we gotta get the calipers cleaned up. And a spider has been living here for a little while. Hit them with some cleaner, let it sit, then wipe away the grime. A wire brush or sandpaper will make quick work of any rust or stubborn spots. You've also got to get them as clean as possible if you want the paint to actually stick and last a long time. Wipe things down one more time after sanding to make sure you didn't miss any spots. Now, it's time to tape things up. First, we're gonna wanna protect everything around the caliper so we don't get paint on anything we don't want to. Hey, can you toss me that? So what I like to do is take a trash bag, put a little slit in it so I can stretch it over the caliper and tape it into place. For the caliper itself, you want to tape off anything that you don't want to paint accidentally, like the bleeder nipple, these slide boots, and of course the brake pads. Take your time here, because it will make the next step way easier. Give the caliper a final cleaning with some alcohol, or even in a pinch, some hand sanitizer, and get to painting. Shake that primer like it owes you money, and apply the first coat. Wait about 5 to 10 minutes, then follow up with at least one more and let it dry completely. Then it's time for color. Make sure to mix the paint and activator thoroughly, and do your best to follow the manufacturer's instructions in regards to temperature and environment. Apply your paint in thin, even coats. Trick here is to get nice, even, light coats. Not too much, not too little, just the ideal amount. And channel your inner Rick Ross. No, wait, what's his name? Bob Ross. Just a happy little caliper here. Oh yeah, happy clouds, happy. Building up to the final show-stopping layer. I recommend 2 light coats followed by a final medium one, with about 10 or so minutes in between. Just do your best not to put it on too thick and cause the paint to run. And make sure you let it dry enough, otherwise you might see lines from the paintbrush bristles, which is not ideal.
On my side, we completely disassemble, clean, sand, and similarly tape off anything we don't want to get paint on. Now, one trick I learned for when you're trying to tape stuff off is if you take a piece of tape like this, and then just hammer around. You'll end up cutting the tape around the edges and make it really easy to peel off. Then give things a final wipe with some alcohol and get to spraying. 2 coats of primer, 3 coats of color, and 2 coats of clear have our brakes looking amazing.
Back on my side over here, you're gonna wanna take off the tape, the garbage bag, and admire your handiwork, because this is going to pop behind those wheels once we get them back on. So there's a couple of goo towels, and one of the things I think I did wrong is I waited a little too long to take the tape off. It's completely dry, which means my taping job wasn't absolutely perfect, and it took off a little bit of the paint with it. So I would recommend that you don't let the paint completely dry when you take off the tape after you put the final coat on, and it should turn out more ideal than this. Before reinstalling the wheels, hit the mating surface and hub bores on both the brake discs and the wheels themselves with a wire brush to remove any corrosion that might prevent the wheel from clamping down evenly. Start all your lug nuts by hand and then snug them down. We'll torque them properly after I get my side back together.
Now over here on my side, we've got a few extra steps. We've got to reinstall these calipers and then bleed the brakes. First, reinstall the caliper carrier. Lubricate and install the slide pins. Lubricate and install the brake pad support shims. Now the brake pads. Now, not all manufacturers recommend applying brake paste to all parts of the brake caliper or pads. But, as per the service manual for this car, we're going to be applying the paste to the backs of the pads, the pad ears, the abutment clips, and the shims. Now, some of you may have noticed these brake pads, they're done. So why aren't we replacing them? Well, truth is, we've got some pretty big plans for this thing moving forward. We just wanted to show you the process of how to paint the calipers. Now, reinstall the caliper. Brake hydraulic hose. Now, normally when you're forced to bleed one caliper, it's in your best interest to just go ahead and bleed the other 3 to ensure there's absolutely no air in the system. But like I said, we've got some big plans for these babies, so it's kind of a waste of our time right now. The easiest method is to use a power bleeder, but since we didn't have the correct adapter for this specific reservoir, we opted to go old school. Start by topping up the reservoir and cracking open the bleeder to allow fluid to start filling the caliper. Then close the bleeder, pump the brakes a few times, and with one person in the car holding firm pressure on the pedal, crack open the bleeder screw again until the pedal sinks all the way to the floor. Then snug that bleeder back up. Repeat this process until no air bubbles are visible, and the brake pedal is nice and firm with the engine switched off. Oh, and don't forget to keep an eye on the fluid level in the reservoir. If you let the level get too low, you'll introduce air into the system, and it can be a headache to get it bled out completely again.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, that's good.
And guys, there we have it. So, what did we learn?
Well, I think the final product on the side that we sprayed came out looking better. The finish is a little more uniform, and overall, I think it looks a little more professional.
Yeah, I agree, but your side took way longer and was a lot more effort. Plus, with the wheels on the car, dude, it doesn't even really matter. You can't see the back sides of the calipers anyway, so like, is it worth the effort?
I totally hear you. I'm wondering if we leave the calipers on the car and use the spray instead of the brush-on stuff, and maybe it'd be a more ideal balance of quality, effort, and time.
Don't you say? Because that's exactly what we did on the back calipers, and they actually turned out really good. You take this off real quick. I mean, this red is definitely more Ferrari red, where this is slightly more orange, I guess. Both are great colors, and as you can tell, don't mind the overspray on the rotor. This is a very vibrant, efficient, and cost-effective way to paint your calipers. So, which one would we choose? Well, actually the hybrid system I think is the ideal way to go. Get spray-on paint, but don't take your calipers off the wheels. It's unnecessary for 99% of us. Now, we won't know how long these hold up over time, but I have a feeling they're gonna outlast our brakes when we have to change them very soon. So if you enjoyed this video and you love DIY projects like this, please like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and check out some of our other ideal content like how we extreme cleaned this engine just recently, or whatever YouTube recommends you watch next. I'm Brad, that's Trav, this is Ideal, and promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle. Whoa, stop. Whoa. These look amazing. How do the brakes feel?
They feel about as good as I look.
What?